In this video, we're going to talk about the Jweb interface. I'm actually going to install it because the device I have here doesn't have it by default. So you're going to see the installation process, so you get an idea of how long it takes and how do you actually install software on a Juniper device. So remember, the Jweb is one of the options you have to configure your Juniper device. So you can use the CLI as we've been doing in previous videos, or you could use a web interface. So it's really up to the network administrator. Typically, a lot of engineers prefer to use the CLI since it's typically faster and it typically doesn't change as much as a web interface might, and it's quite consistent over different platforms. So first off, we have to copy the package into the Juniper device. So I have it on the laptop. So let's go ahead. I'm going to copy it to the management IP address, so we're going to have to specify the password for my lab user. So it's a very small file, it's only 7 megs. Depending on your platform, you can actually check if you have the Jweb installed or not. You do show version. If you have it installed, it says something around here similar to JunoS web interface or something around those lines, so that we can see here that we don't have it. So we need to actually install it. So how do we actually install software on Juniper? Well, there's a command called request system software add, and then we specify where the package is actually at, and we copy it to bar to /bar/tmp. So we go Jweb, and we actually can do several options. What will happen now is that the JunoS will check to see if this package is actually signed by Juniper, if it's intact, it hasn't been modified by anyone. And we can actually see this process should take around 4 or 5 minutes. And then we'll get a new CLI that actually has the commands to enable the web interface, and we'll be able to actually go ahead and see it. So let's start the installation. We can actually tell the OS do not validate this, but it's typically bad security practice. We want to make sure that what we downloaded hasn't been modified by anyone, and we are not inserting any type of security risk into our enterprise or into our device. So that's what it's going to be doing now. It's going to be checking the integrity of the package. It's going to be checking that we have the right package, so we don't have a version mismatch between the actual OS and the actual web interface. It's going to check that we have enough free space, and it's going to check a couple of things. So that's why, especially with the verification thing, it takes a couple of minutes. So we're actually going to see it here. And it's quite verbose, so we actually can see step by step what it's doing. So it's checking the system integrity to make sure that we don't have a software integrity issue. And we don't have any security risk here. And you can follow along the process. And after, we'll connect to the management IP. Well, first hand, we have to actually enable it on the configuration. So we'll get options saying to check if we want to access it via HTTP or we want to actually do it via HTTPS. And after, we can actually log into the device and play around with it, see a couple of interesting things and a couple of interesting features that it has on the actual web interface. We can see that it's still doing verification. After that's done, it will tell us that verification succeeded, and we'll actually proceed to the installation of the Jweb package. And this process is pretty much the same thing. It's pretty much if you want to actually upgrade the device to another version, it follows the same logic and follows the same procedure. You have to download the package, copy it into the device, and then proceed with the installation. We'll check that to make sure that it actually comes from Juniper and it hasn't been tampered with. Depending on the version, depending on the actual device you have, the Jweb might be installed already. And you can, like I showed at the beginning of the video, you can actually check it with show version. If it's installed, you should be able to see it there. So I can mention saying validation succeeded, so now it's actually installing the Jweb package. So So it's going to install, it's going to verify. We're going to get a message saying that we have a new CLI, which basically means that if we want to restart the CLI, which basically means that replace the CLI with the version that actually has the Jweb commands. So we can go ahead and go into configuration mode and actually enable it. And afterwards, we can actually check it on with show version, in which it will appear there, so we can see if it was installed. So here's the CLI message. So it's telling us that the CLI has been replaced with an updated version. So if we want to restart the CLI using the new version, so let's say yes, restart the CLI. And then if we do show version, we can see there JunoS web management and the version. So now let's go ahead into the configuration mode. Let's enable the system services web management HTTP. So let's commit and quit, and we should be able to go ahead and log into the device via the web interface. So this is the web interface. Now we have to use our user, which is in this case the lab user. And this is a basic web interface. We have several tabs, as you can see: configure, monitor, maintain, troubleshoot. So basically, as you can imagine, in configure we are able to do configuration on the device in several areas. Like we can see interfaces, security, routing, class of service, properties, services, even some CLI options. Monitor is basically for monitoring. We can see things. We'll see it now, like graphs for the traffic on the interfaces. So for example, routing, we could do some static routing here. IPv4 or IPv6. The next hop. So I could go here and say, well, it's on the octet. So I could go here and say, I don't know, 1.1.1.0, and add an next hop here of 2.2.2.2.2, and save. You can see here in details, it's telling me that I'm using the wrong mask. Same thing, it's doing the checkout, rep, OSPF, BGP. It's another way of configuring your device, so it's a matter of preference. Let's go into the monitoring tab. We can see here some graphs. This device doesn't have any traffic, so we won't see anything too fantastic on the graphs. Let's pick one and see if we can get some graphs there. But obviously for a production device, it might be an interesting option. You don't need to have any monitoring system. You can just go into the web interface and you can actually see graphs without any other tool. So it's an interesting option to at least take into account. So logs, events, same thing, routing. You can see, for example, if you give me the 90.0 routing table, give me a report, it will basically go and query the device and bring back the information. So it will give me a report that I could open. Let's give me also information here. So for example, in maintain, you can see config management, you can see a history. So basically all the rollbacks files we have here, and we can actually download them. We can see, for example, here in another video I was doing commit comments, so we can actually see my comment there. So we follow that practice all over our enterprise. We could actually see it there. We could see, each change what the actual engineer wrote there. So troubleshooting, same thing. Troubleshooting tools, ping, traceroute, packet capture. We can actually even see some CLI It's based on Java that apparently I don't have installed here. So it's another option of actually configuring and interacting with our Juniper device. It's good to at least give it a look to see if we could use a particular feature. For example, I like that the fact of the actual graphs, that if I'm deploying a device or if I'm doing a device in a branch office and I don't have any monitoring tools, I could easily just open the web interface and see real-time graphs for things like traffic and errors and things of that nature. So this is basically an overview on how we install JunoS, and it's good enough. It's a good option to at least see a couple times and see what we can use about it. And if you prefer the CLI, then go ahead with the CLI, but it's good to at least know that it exists. Thank you.